Okay, another beautiful day here in Shanghai. The sun is shining. We came to the park once again to talk. What are we going to talk about today, Phoebe?
So today we're gonna talk about how to get yourself prepared, especially when you're about to accommodate yourself into like a brand new cultural environment, especially for the first time.
And so, why are we having this conversation today? What inspired this
So
topic?
I think it's all come from like I would say that the discussion between me and you and my mom. So we're about uh to try to talk about how do we want to get prepared for our winter like workation in beautiful Indonesia.
Yeah, so we've got a work retreat coming up for Chameleon Pathos. And so, you and I are going to be spending a lot of time on the computer, whether it's in cafes or home or wherever it may be. We decided to bring your mother along this year because we thought that she might enjoy the area and the place that we're staying. Um, but there are also some concerns about the fact that, we are going to have our blocked off work time, and that sometimes when small inconveniences may arise, again, I think we should provide in Shanghai a lot of the time, not with every perhaps mother-daughter relationship, but for example, sometimes when there's trouble calling a car or there's trouble doing something on the phone or finding a place, you might get a call in the middle of the workday, right?
Yes.
For a call that might last a minute or two just to fix like this small thing. And I think one of the concerns we've had is when we really want to block off our time to get stuff done, we would prefer to not be getting those phone calls. So I think we've been trying to instill like a sense of independence for this trip.
Yes, I would say it's the most tricky part because here like so so I think we're so we both understand that especially for like the overseas trip it will be important for everyone to have their independence because it's
Yeah.
not only your
Yeah, so we're not. It's not a vacation where okay, we're gonna go on this
yes
tour and we're gonna go here this day and then go back. It is a month of just living there and
yes
hanging out, and we're not going to be doing organized things every day.
yes so and also I feel like it's also a important consensus that to make sure everyone can enjoy their own space and time and also it's actually will be nice for everyone who like for the first time to enter like a brand new cultural environment because actually that's why a lot of people choose to go along with their friends instead of going on like a tourist group
Right.
where you can have your independence, your freedom, and also like you might encounter a lot of difficulties, but
That's
still,
the whole point. But that's the whole point.
yes, so out of the comfort zone. But the conversation we had with my mom, it turned out like, and then I feel like it's a, I think both of us feel like it's a great example to share with our
Yeah,
audience.
100%. Because I think it is. Again, I don't want us to go into this conversation saying that we're giving this example of your mother because she especially is super unprepared and might be unable to do all these things. We think this is representative of one, a lot of
Yeah.
the Chinese from that generation, the Shanghainese from that generation, but also a lot of just people around the world who have never really been abroad or
Yes.
had to rely on just themselves in unfamiliar situations. I feel like the perspectives that she was sharing as far as how she sees it, and then me trying to respond, and like this disconnect that we had for
Yeah.
hours before we could kind of come to like an understanding. I think it's super common. We're
Yes.
not saying your mom is an idiot and can't do anything.
Yeah.
We think that this is like very representative of
Yes.
kind of the mindset that a lot of people will have going in.
Yes. It's not limited in in this kind of Chinese only.
That's
So we
exa-
might
that's- yeah,
cover
exactly.
and everywhere. Yeah. So so the difficulties we sense from that discussion is so the first is so at first we saw it was language but because it will be pretty sure like if you
Yeah, so
know
let's give context. In Indonesia,
Yeah.
obviously there is Bahasa. In the area in Indonesia, wherever you find yourself, they generally have the local dialect, whether it's Javanese, Balinese, etc. And then English exists, but is limited. and now your mother does not speak any of those languages, right? And so
Correct.
that's one of the concerns is the language. However, I think we learned that's not really what the big thing is.
Yes, because at first, like actually for me and Max, we spent a lot of time trying to account, like equip her with that whatever technology or
Right. So
some
we're gonna
like
download all the apps. This is how you
yes,
call a car, because so obviously China has specific apps for all these things that don't exist
yes,
outside of China. So Didi, which is the cab hailing app here in China, will get Grab. Grab is what is used in Indonesia.
yes,
Also, Meituan is also on Grab, so the food will also be on Grab.
yes,
We're getting her a translator. Like we're gonna get her all of these apps.
yes,
We're using one of my foreign credit cards. We're gonna get on her phone so
yeah,
she can use to pay because you guys aren't gonna be able to use your cards. Like we're taking all these steps, but again, even with that, we feel there's still some other stuff, more mental stuff, more like abstract stuff that we
yes.
last night were learning that are gonna need to be resolved a bit.
Exactly. So, as we dive into that part deeper, so we also, but we, it's even if we already addressed the most difficult part. Still, she looked pretty worried and also like a little bit I would say unsecure or like or even a little bit mad. So like it's a very complicated to explain that.
Right.
So it was very intense. So then we asked her more about like what the other things might you might think it would be make you uncomfortable or you find it so hard to accommodate yourself to that environment. As first we all thought it might be food or something. Yes, she did mention that, but as long as she figured out there's a market or some the supermarket things and she
Right.
feels safe and feel everything's still under control, you can still like get your food on your own, which is exactly the same way how she did it in Shanghai. Then she feel much better.
Sure.
But then come to the I would say it's the key part.
I think yes. Here, I would like to. Can I introduce the key part? So the
Sure.
key part was, I think you are very aware of this, is that outside of China, recently, and I think it's been this case for a bit of time, but recently because of the increased tourism numbers,
Yeah.
right, and increased exposure of people from other countries in their homes of Chinese traveling there, is that unfortunately a lot of the behavior of the Chinese in context of other countries is seen as is rude. Okay, so there's a lot of the personal space stuff, the spitting, the yelling, the smoking, a lot of that stuff. Obviously, here this is just how things are done, right? And also, let's be clear: when you're here, it is not rude. It is just the way things are, right? From the lens of someone where these behaviors are rude, yes, to you, you think it's rude. But when you are here, it is normal, and so it is not rude. That is the way people do things. And I think what we were trying to convey is, though your mother does not necessarily spit or smoke, she sometimes might talk loudly, might talk in a way that's a little people might be like, "What? Hold on, what's going on? Like, are you fighting? Like, is everything okay?" And so some of these things we were trying to tell her, "Hey, when you act this way here, we know that you talking quickly or loudly doesn't mean you're anxious, but we want to let you know from an outsider's perspective that's what they might think, right? And when we are in Indonesia, we need to be mindful of what their perception of your behavior might be."
Yeah. Yeah, that's so when we talk to her. Actually, at first, the most difficult part is we won't even on the same page because what she perceived there, the whole point where we pointed out to her and and she took it as a personal stuff. She thought, oh, maybe it's something. So now like we were judging her, like think this, we're talking about the right behavior and the wrong behavior.
Yes, and I think
which is the first.
it was very personal to her. She thought we were criticizing
Yes.
her.
But also, I feel like that is also like a good start. How we sense like the mindset things.
Yeah.
So like here, like for most, especially I would say actually not here, but most people will start to, cause especially for people who are, who's the first, who actually, have been the first exposed to the cross-cultural context. So at first, when they realize their cultural behavior, their behavior might perceive as in a different way in other cultural contexts, they, I think they will tend to think either their behavior are totally right and the others are wrong, or they are doing it in a totally wrong way and feel really upset about that. So I mean, either way will be it's not a right way to think about that.
Right.
So that's the first thing Max and I try to persuade her, like try to make her realize that it's actually not about, we're not trying to like pick out some faults you made, or we're trying to like to judge like which one is better, so which culture is better. It's not about that things at all. So the key is whether you understand somehow like how other people from the other side of the world, from different cultural contexts, so the perception will be different.
And there's also the aspect of where you are, right?
Yes.
So if Indonesians were to come here and they see Shanghainese interact with each other and they're a little off-put by some of the spitting or the yelling or whatever behavior they think is a little like, that's a bit much, well, that's their problem because they're in Shanghai. And this is how people are in Shanghai. And you might do things, the Indonesians might do things that they think are normal that the Shanghainese perceive as rude. But you're in Shanghai.
But there's there's one thing we can't just mislead our audience. Actually, spitting in Shanghai is also like not okay.
Well, I beg to differ.
Okay.
I see several uncles a day spitting in very public areas, on the ground, in the plants.
But yeah, but right now, probably should cut this off. But yeah, still, it's not like.
We're not cutting it out. I know you don't want to be misrepresented as a city of spitters,
Yeah.
but the older generation might do that. Okay, and I think a lot of this is we're applying to the older generation who's very set in their ways, right?
Yes.
And they can't really even. Hopefully they can, but it's very difficult to comprehend that there is a different way of standards in other places.
Yeah.
And the need to understand that is very important, right? So what I was saying is if for example, if Indonesians are here or if Americans are here and I see behavior that I think that's a little bit much or I think that might be rude, well, I'm in Shanghai and this is how they do things. So this is normal. It's not rude. This is their behavior.
Yeah.
Okay? However, when we find ourselves in Indonesia, we need to be mindful of what are their norms.
Yeah.
What do they perceive as rude? What do they perceive as disrespectful? And even if you have an action or I wanted to say like 习惯, if you have a habit, something that you are used to doing that's normal here, but might be perceived as rude there, you need to be mindful of that and maybe try to not do that as often. Because you are a guest in these people's place. So you should act in accordance with how they act and try to not do anything that they might perceive as rude, even though it is something that you perceive as totally normal. And that, I think, is where we spent about 2 hours trying to drill that home.
Yes. It's actually, but also I feel like it totally, I think it's totally worth it because I feel like, so the language is actually not that big of a deal. I mean, in that context,
Language isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, but
she'll figure it out. I'm not concerned about that.
Yes, but I feel like the mindset is something like you can't just solve it within a snap. Like and also like with the AI or the other advanced technology can help you, but the mindset is something you have to really being really like more like self-aware of what the situation is, and also. And through the process, we also sense that right now we will still just use my mom as an example. Probably to most people at the first day will also have the same path. It is really hard to go against your ego. Try to persuade yourself like maybe,
because you see you think it's personal. It's like what she kept saying is like you think I'm an idiot And it was like,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
She took it personally. And then
That
also
was
she was
pretty intense.
referencing other experiences she's had abroad. And so, for example, she has been abroad to Japan and she has been to Eastern Europe. The Eastern Europe was with a group of other Shanghainese. The time to Japan was with you. So then I was like, because again, this whole point was we're kind of living there, right? We're not gonna be there the whole time to take care of things. And she was like,
Yes.
well, you spoke for her when you were in Japan, and when she was in Eastern Europe, the group there was some sort of leader who was able to handle everything. So she was never really in a position where she was alone and really had to acclimate to the norms of that society
Exactly.
or interact with the people in any sort of intimate or, again, independent way.
Yes. So I will also like give some more additional details about why. So before we pointed out this, so the things to her, she was pretty confident that she could accommodate herself in a way abroad. So for example, while we were in Japan, yes, we actually didn't have any trouble about like being misunderstood by other people or something.
Because you speak Japanese, because you are a genius.
First is I help everyone try to lead the conversation and try to use their language, which is totally fine. And also and also the most important thing is a lot of time the only conversation interaction we have is either among our acquaintance or it's not something you can call the interaction. We just give the money to the people who have already shop or restaurants, and all the conversation we have is thank you, bye.
Yes.
So, but because it all went super well, because we actually, I don't think we even touched the border of like we're like the cross culture stuff, but because we were physically abroad, which might give her like illusion that oh we made it because we're abroad and we made everything's alright because I made it and then it's overseas trip, so in that case she thought I'm also I'm certainly capable of any other kind of like overseas trip, but the thing is when we start to mention to her like so this trip it is overseas trip. Probably it's just it also a different place, but actually the mindset or the
Sense of independence, having to rely on
yes,
yourself to figure things out,
and
wasn't really there.
yes, and she realized the whether the capability she need to have all the other she still think it's kind of the rule like don't do and don't stuff, which is fine and she feel like it's I think she feel really overwhelmed. It's totally just break her. I would say her like a beautiful fantasy about all might happen in the beautiful island of Indonesia, where still like her kids might equip her with every stuff, get her appointed with every nice activity. All she needs to do just exactly understand everything in control within a snap, food right away.
Right.
You can go everywhere you want. You can talk loudly and happily with your friends, and always you can just you can just hang out with the whatever neighbor strangers kids without any clear conversation or whatever stuff. But when she realized all of the things, when you think it's okay, and also she might enjoy a little bit, she thinks it's everyone might enjoy as well, will be perceived as not only rude but maybe will cause the I would say conflict or other stuff.
Right.
And she started to being a little bit panic, mad, confused. All this I was negative feedback and emotion just came up at the same time. That was pretty intense.
It was very intense.
Yeah, but also the key we said about that is so the story does not end here.
It doesn't end here. No,
That's
no,
why
no.
we want to share the things to everyone right now. So in the end, she did realize, and she actually made the first step. She starts really becomes a little bit self-aware about what things might going on, what things she might need to do, especially for the mindset shift. And she realized, yeah, it might be she have she can't just drop off the ego part, and also we are still feel very proud of her. And it's very difficult for people like her age to really it is need courage to do that, especially you are it's your very first time to do to do all stuff on your own, but also like but yeah, let's go back to the mindset stuff. So while we
Well, can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
I think there was also this idea of, well, she's like, well, in Shanghai, I interact with foreigners all the time. What's the issue?
Oh, that is honestly why she was so confident about she is capable.
And so
of
the
dealing
issue
with
is,
that.
yes, she has interacted with a lot of foreigners, me being one of them, me probably being one of the most interaction has happened with, right? But
And also the other like foreigners who came
right,
to China.
exactly. But what I'm saying is, these foreigners are in China.
Yes.
If she's spoken with them, they speak Chinese, right? And we are, right? There's a bridge. You're on one side, the other person's on the other. These foreigners that she's interacted with are the ones that have come to the other side of the bridge to speak with her. So, for example, if I speak for myself, like, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what is normal in China, how you guys think, how you act, how you guys perceive the world around you, right? I speak the language, and that's why I'm able to relate very closely to her. And any of these other foreigners she's interacted with are also ones that have spent a lot of time here, really understand it, and really speak the language.
Yeah.
But I think one of the points I made that kind of got us out of that intense part of the conversation last night and more to like feeling a little nervous but understanding the dynamic is, you know, I was like, well, if I just came here, right, day one, and I had never been abroad, and I was just acting like a totally, whatever your stereotype of an American is, right, used car salesman attitude, super loud, super obnoxious, you know, super arrogant, how would you perceive my behavior?
Wow.
You know, and at that time, like, I'm just acting like how a normal American acts. Like, there's nothing, what do you, like, but when I'm in the context of being in Shanghai, and the Shanghainese see it as rude, well, then I'm being rude. Right? Because I'm in your world. So I need to adapt to the way you guys do things if I don't want to be seen as rude. And so I think that clicked for her a little bit of this idea of, okay, it's not me, right? I'm acting how I've always acted my whole life, but here the people around me also act in the same way, and we perceive that as normal, right? This is our normal behavior. This is not rude for us.
I think that's also a great example of how it's also like it's also why we decided to name our brand as one of the words is chameleon. So we all know what chameleon is. Chameleon can adapt themselves to the environment.
Change the colors.
Yes, but right now, like,
fit in.
Yeah, in the culture, in the cross-cultural context, that's the thing we advocate, and also we are already doing this, and we're just doing it by
like
our
the thesis of what
yeah.
we use here and what we really drill home with clients is this idea of the best way to like thrive in a new culture and a new society is you should try to become like them as much as you possibly can.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was an intense conversation. But so again, this idea of rude, because what we're really concerned about is more like being perceived as rude behavior. Is that there's no intrinsic, like nothing is intrinsically negative, intrinsically rude. No actions are intrinsically rude, negative, bad, whatever. It is. This society that you've lived in has been built up over thousands of years and naturally developed a sense of what is normal in social interaction. And anything out of that would be considered as, well, it's not in line with the norm, so it is bad, it is negative, it is rude, this term rude.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to understand that there's no intrinsic action, way of being, or there's no action or way of being that is intrinsically rude. It is all dependent on the context you're in and the people who are around you. And so that is why I believe, for this example, when we're in Indonesia, we must be mindful of what they perceive to be rude, it is not intrinsically rude, but what they perceive to be rude, and try to make some adjustments to our behavior as much as we can, right?
Yeah.
To not disturb them because we are in their home. We are the guests. And so I think that's what we were really trying to drill home to her last night.
Yes, and also like.
And to all of you listening as well. This is super important, you know?
Yes, and also like when we're always talking about cross-culture things, I also feel like when we use the cross, it's also like, it's actually we can, as long as we visual like there's a bridge. So while they're doing these cross-culture things, so sometimes what when we say it's super perfect things will be you cross half the bridge, the other people also cross off half the bridge. You meet in the middle. That'll be the perfect.
Let me just reiterate this bridge analogy because I don't think we've done it in a while.
Yeah.
Imagine there's a giant bridge, there's
Yeah.
traffic on the middle, super noisy, tons of cars going by, and you're on this end, the other person's on the other end, you're trying to yell to each other.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very difficult to hear each other, right?
Correct.
So this idea is, well, if one of them has learned a bit of the culture, so luckily for a lot of those who speak English as their mother language, a lot of the world learns English, and they're actually the one that's really coming closer to you. So in the context of this podcast right now, since we're speaking English, you're the one that's actually coming closer to me. You know, you're kind of adapting to the norms of this English-speaking audience as well, right?
Yeah.
And ideally is you can also do some of that, and so you're going to come halfway, and then if you guys half understand each other's culture, you're speaking very, very clearly to each other.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of the time is that anyone who's really trying to do this is doing something that is not normal, right?
Yeah.
And so 99% of the people you're going to interact with are not coming any closer to you on their side of the bridge. So your responsibility is to get as close to them as you can to be able to speak with them clearly and get rid of the noise of all this traffic on this bridge.
Yes.
You need to be the one that's going all the way.
And also I feel like so in order to just to make sure that like both of side of people can meet in the middle. So as we said before, language will be the vehicle. So yes, it can help just to shorten the distance, to help people just get closer, and to get you guys meet in the middle of the bridge. But it's not the only.
It's less about the language, but if you have learned a language to that proficiency, you have then been exposed to literature or to news or to television series that are in that language.
Yes.
And so through that you've adapted more to the culture. It's not about the fact that you can string words together that make sense in that language.
Yeah.
It's that the only reason you were able to get to that level is because you've consumed so much content in that language that it is you have a deeper understanding of those people because by way of having consumed all of that.
Yes, and also I feel like so besides that, and also I like to bring to the other things which both of us were agree that it's actually the most important thing perhaps. So I would say like even if you were coming with yourself with the language, you consume a lot of those data and information help you to adapt yourself more into the culture context. But still, you will need the motivation to help you just push you more to the point you actually meet the other side of people in the middle. I would say that's the mindset. You only combine all this stuff together. I would say more than a language mindset probably will be other stuff, but only you have the motivation. That will be the most important thing to drive you to that goal.
100%. You're right. And so that I think that's another part of the conversation we were having last night is when she was starting to feel overwhelmed by it and kind of like, you know, and then it normally with that generation, when you advocate for a change of a sort, it gets to the point of like, in I'm trying to think of the translation, but it's like old age. There's no way out of it. You know, 年纪大没办法. Like, it's just like, I'm old. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. And, I mean, obviously, sitting from our perspective of our age, it's hard for us to sit in those shoes and be like, and it might be perceived, maybe we don't really understand, right?
Yeah.
But also my perspective is like, I don't think, does it really matter how old you are? Like, if you want to make this change, you can work to make the change. Maybe it happens at a slower rate, but you can do this.
And you will stop to make more excuses for yourself.
Exactly.
And also the other thing that But then there are the other things I also think maybe we all can learn from her is then she starts to then she I think I saw her like really try to put herself together and readjust the attitude. I would say start to form a mindset about how to deal with all the complexities
Right.
her. And she said, okay, so what are the strategy you would suggest me to handle these things? Obviously, a lot of the things she said, a lot of things. What she said she's pretty confident and capable of is she thinks she has the ability to read the dynamic, which she thinks she used that uh, use that expression where we say that watch and learn.
Yeah.
So she will do that, but she also really aware that there is still a lot of the social, I would say, their norms or taboo or ethics. Maybe it's beyond her knowledge.
Well, because there was an hour of she was like, "Tell me what I do wrong. Like today,
Yeah.
what did I do? What today did I do wrong that I wouldn't be able to do there?" And we're like,
Yes.
we can point out something like, for example, we talked about, hey, like when you speak Shanghainese, you tend to speak very loudly and like almost in an anxious way to people who don't understand it. Maybe only do that at home or try to tone it down if we're out because it might make other people uncomfortable. Like that intensity. What was the other thing we said? That and then. There was one more thing, but regardless, it doesn't matter. She was asking.
The other is staring at people. Even
Yes.
if you're
In Chinese culture, it's more common to
you're
be
not
able to stare at others, and we were like, hey, that might not be okay there. But because she was asking, what are the specific actions, right? And so we
Yes.
were able to give those, but that's not really what it's about. It's like
Yes.
you just need to be mindful when you're there of looking around, and people do things differently than you do them, and you just need to be observing. Very
Right.
mindfully observing and almost doing an audit in your head of what your behavior and how far is it off from how they do things and start to close that gap.
Yes, and also like all this behavior you're trying to all the behavior which will lead to more misunderstanding or maybe improvement or maybe lead to like more like a better situation. It's all derived from your mindset. So as long as you equip yourself with the right mindset, especially in the cross culture context. I mean, but both of us understand it is pretty hard. You can't just say, "Oh, so tomorrow I'm going to the other whatever the other country." I will just immediately just like overnight. I will equip myself with a brand new mindset. It's highly impossible.
Well,
So
and I
it
think
takes a little bit of time.
also again, this is year 7 of me living in different places around the world,
Yeah.
and I have spent multiple months in Indonesia before, and I still know when I get there I'm not going to immediately know how to act,
Yes.
but I know what to look for and I know how to adjust behavior very quickly, so I'll be able to do it
Yes.
rather rapidly. But like I couldn't tell you exactly how they do things there. I don't know. And that's why I think again we talk about there's a difference between a lot of these more like mindset shifts we talk about, and then there's specific cultural knowledge.
Yeah.
And we could not possibly give you all specific cultural knowledge for all the different cultures that exist on this planet. That's more on you to do that research. But what we are sharing with you is this is how you can learn what those things are, right? Like through
Right.
observation,
Yes.
through mimicking. This is
Watch
how
and
you
learn.
do it. Watch and learn. Watch and learn.
But yeah, also like you also need to equip yourself with your. I would say it's not like you just gain the mindset like you purchase it online and it will deliver like right away to your home the
Yeah.
other day. So equip the mindset also like should start with the, the so start with you need to drop off a little bit of your old ego.
The ego thing was important, right? It is not
Yes.
personal. It's not. We're not saying everything you do is intrinsically rude. We're saying in this context, maybe the way you act is not okay according to the local people's perception of your behavior. It's
And-
not about you.
Yes. And also like you need to have like a really strong and good motivation, which you need to understand you are get prepared of any of the uncertainty and maybe there is something really which will go against what you believe or before. But please, and also like just as what Max said before, don't take it personal. It's just the perceptions are different. and also remember you are about your being different cultural context. So that is all things you need to be aware of. So nothing is about personal stuff, but it's really more about how you accommodate yourself into a different cultural context.
And understanding that you're the guest and you should be the one that is responsible to change your behavior to not make their life uncomfortable, because you are living in their space and you need to change. And that is something, the guest mindset is what we call it within Chameleon Pathos, and I think it's one of the hallmarks of what we teach to all clientele of ours, which is something we should go deeper into perhaps in another episode in the future. I definitely will put more stuff about that in the community, in the Chameleon Club, which if you are not a part of, the link is in the description. You can go join. It's a free community we have where we gather people who are living in different corners of the world who perhaps are going through the same struggles that you are at the moment, trying to adapt to new cultures. So if you're interested in that, you can go click the link in the description and join that, and we will be waiting for you there. But until we see you in there, I think it's time to wrap it up for today.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Yeah.
And we'll see them in the Chameleon Club.
Yeah, see you in Chameleon Club.
All right. I thank you. I'm glad we shared this conversation. I mean, again, it was very much, I think we had the conversation last night and we were planning to come out to record today, and I go, hey, we should just talk about that today.
Yeah.
Like it was a very, it's a lot of the stuff that we talk about and we preach all the time, but it was very much like in action, right? And we were trying to eliminate some of the mental barriers that a person who's about to go do that had, and we just wanted to share what that was all about. So we appreciate you all joining us to listen to what that was all like last night, and let's wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up. So I would say right now I only have 4 words. Maybe it's at key points what we want to share to our audience.
What are the 4 words?
Watch and learn, experience and reflect. That's
Okay.
I
thought you were gonna say watch and learn. I was like, I don't know, Hoey. That's 3 words. But then you had the other ones, and the ands don't count towards the total count.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. All right, that's too much. All right, we will see you in the next one.
Yeah. Until next time.
All right, goodbye.